I want to do the Ultraman World Championship one more time. And the race directors told me, hey, Drake, you got to slot anytime you want it. You know,
Nice.
It's like, okay, I just know what, and my kids are like, yeah, Dad, go for it. And my wife's like, oh boy, she knows what it takes for me to get ready for that too, you know?
Yeah,
And
that's
so-
awesome.
But I want to do that because they're getting that age where they're going to have forever memories. You know, my grandson definitely is at the age where the things that are happening now in his life, when he's 30, when he's 40, he'll remember those.
Yeah.
You know, if they're not just stories or pictures of things. And so I would like to, and maybe this is my own selfish thing of wanting this, but I want my grandkids to have the memories of the cool things that Papa did. versus
Yeah.
just the stories.
It's the Fit for Radio podcast, and I'm your host, Drew Tiedemann, right here at the beautiful Stafford Hills Club. If you haven't been here, what are you doing? You got to get down here and check it out. It is not only a beautiful place, it was also voted the best health and wellness facility in the Portland area. And hey, let's be honest, there's some nice clubs, but this one is number one. Also, the saltwater pool. My kids, when I pick them up, it's the same question every day. We going to the pool, Dad? We going to the pool? And why not? It's like a staycation every day of the summer, and it's going to be popping out there. So get in where you fit in before the family memberships fill up and you end up on the sidelines. StaffordHills.com. Tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation. Right now, I'm pretty excited to sit down with this guy. We definitely have some like tendencies, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he takes it to another level. He spent decades balancing faith, family, business, and an obsession with endurance, from marathons to Ironmans, triathlons, you name it. He has done it all, and he did it. He did it under the cover of darkness for so many years. Welcome to the show, Drake Tollenaar.
Hey, Drew. Nice to see you today.
It's great to see you too. And when I met you in the lobby, first thing I thought is, this guy's in shape. He's maybe ready to run a triathlon right now. Now, you were born and raised in Springfield, Oregon.
Yes.
And for people who don't know, that's just on the other side of the tracks from Eugene, Oregon, where the University of Oregon is, a place I lived for a long time. Spent a lot of time in and around Springfield. And you lived there throughout, went to high school at Thurston High School. Very familiar with that as well. Got married early while you were in college.
Yeah, it's pretty much just as I started college. My wife is a year younger than I am. And so when we were kind of waiting for her to graduate high school, and then got married right after that. So yeah, we got married pretty early, but it was good. We were ready. So,
which is amazing, because a lot of people are like, well, oh my God, you got to live your life. You got to do this and that. And I come from a family where my parents, now my dad's from England, so you had to kind of do it quick, but my parents got married at 19 and have been married for 50 years. So, I think that true love will withstand the test of time, and you're proof of that.
Yeah, we're coming up on our 37th anniversary coming up here.
Nice.
And I think about the fact that, she was 19 when we got married. I just turned 20. She just turned 19. And I remember the day when I had been married longer than I had not been married. And I like that. And I like the fact that I've got that many more memories with my wife than without my wife. And so, I think getting married early, I think it's a good thing. It's a good thing. We grow up together. You get to grow through life. I had a lot of schooling to do. She walked through that with me. And so it wasn't like we had different lives, different experiences. No, we had the same life, same experience growing up together. So,
which is really cool. And I actually keep an eye on those numbers myself. My wife and I are coming up on 15 years. And in a year and a half, or even a little bit less, we'll have been together for half of her life. So we're about to cross that threshold. And I think it's great. And it gives you that stability moving nice and early. And, there is the risk. You guys overcame some odds there, because when somebody gets married when they're young, there's that moment of, oh, is somebody going to turn 21 and get the itch to go out? And the other one's like, oh, I'm trying to grow up. And there can be that kind of that tug of war. So congrats for overcoming all of the little, because you're not the same people you were.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
And that's impressive. So you finish up at the University of Oregon, and you decide to go into school to be a chiropractor?
Yeah, I'd always known I was wanting to be a doctor of some type. I remember when I was in high school, I had gotten a call. It was in my junior year, and it was from the U of O saying, "Hey, we want you to come to school here. If you come here, we'll give you a full ride and all your books, tuition taken care of." And so, because leading up to that, it's like I didn't know for sure what I was going to do. As far as schooling, we weren't in a position to be able to afford school. So then it was like, well, I guess I'm going here locally, which was perfect because we had family there as well.
Yeah.
And so what was interesting was I was actually in the process of going through med school or pre-med there at the U of O. And then my wife and I got in an auto accident. And she was like, well, we better go get checked out by my chiropractor. And so I said, okay, well, let's go ahead. So we went in and this is a family chiropractor. So he'd been treating her and her family for a long time. So who's this new guy?
Yeah, exactly.
Who's this guy?
Who's the side piece?
Yeah, exactly. So he's asking me questions, what I'm planning and stuff. And I'm, at U of O, taking pre-med. And he asked, well, have you ever thought about chiropractic? And I said, well, no, I haven't. So he gave me a couple books on chiropractic, one about the philosophy of chiropractic and the kind of the history of it. And I looked into those books, and as I read them, I realized, I love this idea of, the body heals itself. And chiropractic is more about finding, what's the cause of the symptom versus treating the symptom itself. And I realized, this is what I want to do. And I looked up to see what it took to go to chiropractic college. And it's basically the same prerequisites as med school. So I just continued the pre-med program at U of O and then transitioned everything to moving up here to Portland. It's funny, I got my acceptance letter at National First in Chicago. And we were thinking, this will be fun. We can go to Chicago, go watch some Cubs games and things like that. And the very next day, I got my acceptance letter to Western States up here in Portland. And we said, do we want to really go that far from home? Let's maybe stick a little bit closer to family, but just 2 hours away. So that's what originally brought us up here to the Portland area.
That is hilarious. Almost the exact same thing happened to my brother. He was pre-med, got accepted. It was either Chicago or Boston and was going, like they were packed. And then he found out he got to stay here and go to OHSU dental school.
Yes.
And now he's a dentist. So it's like you both had the same path, and now you just like picked something that's just fits you perfectly.
Yeah.
And it's something you still do today?
Yes. Yeah. Still in practice. It's been 32 years, my 33rd year I'm coming on to now. So yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you guys moved from Eugene to Tualatin. I just wanted to change a pace, or what was the decision?
Well, that was to go to school. It was to go to school.
And then you stayed.
And then that was kind of funny too, because my wife's a dental assistant, and she got a job in Tualatin. And so we were trying to decide, do we want to live closer to the school, which was more or on the east side, closer to Gresham, or do we want to live closer to her work? We decided to live closer to her work, which now, in retrospect, is like, I'm so glad we decided to be on the west side in the Tualatin area. We really like this area. And then when I was finishing school, same kind of thing. We'd planned on moving back down to Eugene. Her old chiropractor had just bought a building. He said he's always had a spot for me there. My mom had got a chiropractor at that time, and then he was getting ready to retire. And he was like, hey, maybe you can come down and buy my practice, So I had some great opportunities down there. But when we were up here, when we moved up here, we started going to a church that was just right down the road from us. It was a Foursquare church, and that's what my wife had gone to, and we had gone to when we were down in Eugene, Springfield area. And so when we started going to church there, they didn't have a youth group. And my wife had a really good youth group experience. And so we thought, well, maybe this is something we could help, start to develop. And and it was funny because on one Sunday, I was going to come up to tell the pastor, hey, if you ever want anybody to start a youth group or start doing something with youth, we'd be more than happy to help out. And he actually met me halfway up the aisle and said, hey, Drake, we were wanting to ask, well, how would you and Beth like to start a youth group here?
Isn't that wild?
And so then I started becoming the youth pastor there, and then started doing worship as well. And then this just became our home. That became our family. And so our plan was to move down to Eugene. And we even had a U-Haul rented and everything because I was just getting ready to graduate. And I came home one day and told my wife, honey, I feel like I'm grieving someone's death, this whole idea of leaving. And she said, I've been feeling the same way.
And that's telling you something.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? I think we're supposed to stay. And I had a friend at church who, her chiropractor, she'd been telling him about me for years. She had been telling me about him. So we contacted, he said, hey, why don't you come in here for a little bit? So I started in practice with them. I we called my family, said, "Hey, we decided to stay up here," and everybody's like, "What? That wasn't in the plan this whole time. You were going to come back home."
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we stayed up here and just have been up here since. And so,
And, it's those things there's a feeling in your gut, that, and if you ignore it, you would have gone down there and you probably, you would have worked it out, but you would have been miserable and you would have always wondered what happened up here. Now, when you decided to stay and all that, this is kind of when you become a dad.
yes, exactly. Our first child, she's 32 now, or she'll be 32 coming up this here in this month, and actually this next week. And so, yeah, so she. My wife was pregnant with her, and so she was born just right as I was graduating, and so then it's like, oh, hey, I got to start taking care of a family now too. I got to help start supporting my family, because now my wife, I want her to be able to stay home and not working more. She was a hard worker. I always point out she's only missed one day of work ever, and that was the day she had to call and say, "Hey, I can't come in today. I'm in labor."
Yeah.
So she's strong work ethic. So, but yeah,
which is great because it's kind of something we'll get in with you. And I feel like working out and job streaks are a lot alike. So I prided myself on, I went 10 years at my last job, never had a sick day.
Mm-hmm.
And when your job starts at 5 a.m. every day, that's pretty good. But it's also the streak. Like a cold isn't going to stop you. Pre-COVID, you try not to do it whenever that was going on. But it was just like, no, I'm going in. I'll be fine. I'm not and then by the time you're at work, you're fine.
Yeah.
And so that's impressive. Now, when you're going through all this and you have that first daughter, and I have to ask, you said her birthday's next week. Do you remember her birthday?
Oh, yeah.
What is it?
The 11th of June.
So my birthday's the 12th of June. I was taking a stab, maybe, and my mom's is the 10th, and it's her 70th. So we're throwing a big party. We should be doing it right there in the middle, but
my mom's is the 14th. I have twins. Their birthday's the 8th, and I've got a son-in-law that's the 9th. So
there's something about June.
It's like everything's all bunched in there. Yeah.
Yeah. You back up 9 months.
Busy month weird. For us.
Yeah. So you have the twins in 96. Now you've got 3 daughters.
Yes.
Something I know a lot about. That's a lot of action.
Oh yeah.
So what was that like for you early on?
So that was hard. One, we didn't know we were having twins until I think it was at 21 weeks when my wife went in for ultrasound, and the ultrasound tech, he stopped for a second. He said, "Now, has your doctor said there's anything unusual about this pregnancy?" And we're like, "No," And he said, "Well, golly, you're having twins." And then before that, it's funny because my wife had been saying, "It's pregnancy, I just feel so big," And I said, "Well, honey, every pregnancy is different, And she goes, "No, but I just feel really big, And then it's like, okay, yeah, that's why you felt big. And so, and then at 23 weeks, so we had the ultrasound at 21, finds out she's pregnant, she's pregnant with twins, and then at 23 weeks, she went into early labor, and so then there's the whole rush down of, okay, what's going on, and then they were able to get that stopped, and then they put her on bed rest. She was on bed rest at home for about a month, and then she went in labor again, and this time they kept her in the hospital. And so then she ended up staying in the hospital for 2 months, and this was the 1-year-old. Shadow was still 1; she wasn't quite 2 yet.
That's tough to deal with.
My mother-in-law came, lived with us for those couple months because she was became Shadow's caregiver since Beck was on bed rest.
Yeah,
we had people at church that were coming around helping out when she was at home for that first month. There was ladies there with her all day, every day, making sure that she was taken care of. And,
that's huge.
And then when she was in the hospital for that 2 months, I just remember I'd go to work every day. I'd come home, and then I would, get my daughter and my mother-in-law. We'd drive down to the hospital. My wife got one wheelchair ride a day. So I'd get in the wheelchair, I'd wheel her through the hospital and stuff. And
get some
back.
fresh air or something.
And so, but that was a tough time. That was really hard. It's still early in practice with a 1-year-old and not knowing what's going on with my wife and what was going to happen with our babies. And they gave us a walk through the NICU unit.
Did they end up in the NIC unit?
They didn't. She ended up holding them long enough that they said, okay, now if they're born, they're going to be okay. So we were able to come home 3 days later. She goes into labor, it goes in. And then when they were born, they weren't eating well. So they had to stay for 9 days before we were able to bring them home. So,
and yet another weird association to my life. My, the non-dentist brother had one kid, and then they were going to have another one. And I'll never forget the text message that said, surprise, it's twins. And like, not the plant, twin girls as well.
Okay,
But they also ended up in the NIC unit. And so, which is a very scary time. I mean, one of them was so tiny. And we always joke that the other one was eating all her food.
Yeah.
And now they're full grown and happy and healthy. But I remember that being a trying time for them.
Yeah, no, it was very, very trying indeed. In fact, I just remember, well, it was hard. That was just hard. There's everything about that was hard. It was so good when we were finally able to bring them home. My wife at first didn't know for sure she thought maybe the nurses weren't letting us take them home because they wanted to keep them. You know, she was like, "I'll stay there. I'll feed them myself." You know, but when they finally got it figured out how to feed them, they were dialed in. Yeah.
So at this point, you're still not in the endurance athlete game.
Yeah.
But you said in your notes that you sent me that you gained 20 pounds of sympathy weight.
Oh yeah.
How did we get there? What happened?
Well, that was again, we were I was the worship pastor, youth pastor at our church, and we were the young couple at church, you know. And when my wife went on bed rest, one of her friends really gathered around her to make sure, hey, let's make sure meals are being delivered and everything. Well, there was my mother-in-law. She was hypoglycemic. We have a 1-year-old. And then my wife's on bed rest. But people were bringing us meals every day. And it was like, you know, and they're feeding 4 people. Well, my mother-in-law is not going to eat much. My 1-year-old's not going to eat much, you know, and they'd bring a whole plate of brownies.
Oh,
and it's like,
and you're crushing them.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's like, oh, no, I knew how to put them down. And so, and more's coming tomorrow, you know? And so
you don't want to waste the food.
Exactly. And I've always been that way. I mean, I'm still that person that goes through the fridge and, okay, I need about this much protein, this much carb, this much fat. Let me eat the things before they go bad so we don't have to throw them away, you know? But oh yeah. So for those 3 months, we had people bringing us food and they were wanting to treat us really well too. So they'd bring great meals and, you know, and extra dessert and things like that. And so, and it was funny because after my wife gave birth, you know, within 3 weeks, she was back to 115 pounds. Like what she always
And you're like,
was, you know? And I was like, you know, 6 months later, a year later, it's like, oh, I still got 20 extra pounds I'm carrying around.
Yeah. And I did the same thing when Amy was pregnant. The first, I realized the error in my ways as time went on, but, you know, you just kind of get comfortable with them. And, you know, they're kind of lounging isn't the term because they're going through hell, but they're just kind of sitting there. And so you're just kind of sitting there. And for me, that was one of those things where I just looked up one day. And as a guy who doesn't have a huge frame to start with, you take 20 pounds and throw it at me, it's not going to fall in the most attractive places. Yeah. You know, it's love handles in the gut and moving out and the whole deal. So
I'll still have patients sometimes say, yeah, when I first met you, you looked a little different. You were a little chunkier in there. So I know.
So what do you do? Like, what's the decision? Because it says in just less than a year later, you run your first marathon. So did you have a moment where you're like, I've had it?
Yeah, I just say, I've got to do something. I've got to do something to lose the weight. And I actually had a patient who had talked about when his first marathon, he ran Avenue of the Giants marathon. And I thought, you know, that's what I got to do. I'll sign up for a marathon. Surely I've got to lose some weight, just the process of training for it. And so I signed up for Avenue of the Giants marathon down in California because it's like, oh, hey, he mentioned that one and it sounded really beautiful. I thought, let's go ahead and do that. And so I just kind of signed up for a marathon and just started running.
Wait, hold on. Yeah. You're signed up, but you're not a runner.
Right. I'd ran a little bit in high school. Like it'd been in the summer to get ready for football season, that kind of thing. Okay. But yeah, no, I was not a runner. By any means. I would maybe just run a little bit just for general fitness, but never more than, 3-4 miles. And that was rarely,
So you build up the mental fortitude over time with these things. But on the first one, are you doubting yourself coming into that?
I kind of went into really not knowing what fully to expect. I kind of came into it really overtrained. I ran too much. Didn't taper, didn't even know about a taper, didn't do a proper morning meal, those kind of things. And so that first marathon was an eye opener. It was an interesting experience because it was a kind of a double out and back. They were doing a half marathon and a marathon on the same day.
Okay,
so everybody runs out the same out and
then
back,
half or whoever comes back.
Marathoners, they all run across the finish line. And then the marathoners take out another loop for another half marathon and then come back.
Okay.
And I remember starting off, going out, and man, I'm weaving between people. Thinking, everybody's running so slow out here, and so I'm kind of weaving between here and there. And it's funny because I remember these two ladies, as I'm passing by them, I hear one of them say, "Oh, don't worry, we'll see him later." I think, there's no way you're going to see me later.
I'm out of here.
He's so far in front of you. But I found 7 miles in, it's like, oh, my legs are tired. I needed to take a walk break. My stomach didn't feel well. And my legs were wanting to cramp about mile 10. So I hadn't even gotten halfway done. And I was already way behind pace. And of what I'd kind of told my family what to expect, And I get to that halfway point, and I tell my wife, "Wow, honey," I said, "Man, this is hard. I'm really kind of struggling out here." She goes, "Well, why don't you just run across the finish line? Just do the half marathon today. Just have it be that today." And I said, "Oh, okay, maybe that's what I'll do." And then my oldest daughter said, "Oh, darn, Dad, I was hoping you were going to do the whole thing." Okay, I'm back out there. Yeah. See you guys later. And so I took out on that second half, and that second half was, my calves were wanting to cramp so bad. I had to literally run with my toes, trying to flex my toes up in the air.
Yeah.
My calves would cramp. And but I finally made it across the finish line.
Nice.
And we had rented a little mini Winnie, a little motorhome, driven down there. I was camping.
Nice.
And then we thought, hey, we'll drive up the coast the way up, the rest of the way up, and stop at all the lighthouses along the way, something fun to do with the family. But at this point, after the race, I'm so cramped up, I can't drive. So I'm laying on the couch on the motorhome. My wife's driving it, and I'm just trying not to cramp, moving some way.
Every move hurts.
Exactly. But what I'm doing, I'm looking at the Race Center magazine, looking for the next race I want to sign up.
So you're already addicted
right away. Yeah.
And one thing that is so important with endurance athletes, or any attempt to do something that involves endurance, if you don't have a proper plan, it wasn't doomed, but you're fighting an uphill battle, and I've done these things like trying to break push-up records where no proper hydration plan, no proper rest ahead of time, no proper repetition plan, which would be a pace plan in running. And you find out, like, you can be brute force for a while. Like when I was trying to beat that push-up record, I was on pace to break the world record at 35 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I broke. And then I broke again. And then if you're like, oh, that's what broke feels. No. And then afterwards, within minutes, my kids were like, "You want to go to a Costco and can we get some samples and this and that?" I'm like, "Sure, I love Costco." It had been minutes, and I walked into a Costco and my whole chest was cramping up, and I'm like, cramps don't start that fast.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you know that you've taken it too far. And if I ever try that record again, I'm going to do what I'm guessing we're going to find from you, and that is plan accordingly.
Yes, exactly.
The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by Motorsport Hillsboro. And I got to tell you, it is time to get down there and get yourself the hot sale of the day, the Gas G-Lite Trail 2.0 electric mountain bike. Now, if you're looking for a great deal on an electric bike, this is the one. And with the assist, I was riding this bike, and the harder you pedal, the more juice it gives you. It's got you going farther, faster, and harder than ever. You got to check them out today at motorsporthillsboro.com. A lightweight frame, powerful motor, and built for the trails. And why is it just $21.99 marked down $3,000? It's because they've got the entire inventory. They bought a bunch to bring the savings back to you. So stay rad and get down to Motorsport Hillsboro and get riding today. The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you in part by Axiom Plumbing, Sewer, and Septic. All things water and waste, they've got you covered. I'm so stoked to have these guys on board. Worked with them for a long time on the radio, and to have Bruce and the gang here is nothing short of amazing, because I know the kind of work they do. Any job in the Portland metropolitan area, including Vancouver, they got you, and I got a discount for you. All you got to do is use the promo code DREW, and you'll get 10% off of your new service. And it doesn't matter if you're dealing with plumbing, sewer, or septic. It's good for any of it. And even $500 off of a water heater. And when mine went out, the first call I made was to Axiom, and they took care of business. And don't forget, Bruce is born and raised Oregonian and has been here his entire life. And this is a privately owned and operated company, not some private equity. So go get it while you can. Residential, commercial, the whole deal. AxiomPDX.com. ultraman.com or give them a call at 971-431-4810. That's 971-431-4810 and tell them Drew sent you. But now you're hooked and you're already, I mean, you're cramped up. You're laying in the back of Mini Winnie, picking your next race. Now you continue to run marathons, right, for a while?
Yeah, correct. I kept running marathons, usually a couple a year. I did Portland Marathon that year. Took significant time off my time from Avenue of the Giants from all the mistakes I'd made. Then I started learning. Okay, I started reading up a little bit about what good training plans would be, and that's when I realized I just ran too much.
So explain the taper.
Too many miles in. So a taper is, and tapering can change with time. And my tapers have changed through the years. So a taper is you kind of build up this, especially for endurance events. You're building up your miles. So like for a marathon, for example, I would suggest people never really going past 21 miles because the recovery that you have to do after running 21 miles is just too much to be able to keep training.
And it'll rob you of future sessions.
Exactly. So it's just this slow build and you can periodize it to where like you do 3 weeks of a build up and then have 1 week where you back off just a little bit, let your body recover a little bit better and then build up from there. But then when it comes race day, you want to go maybe 3 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 weeks, depending upon the length of the race to really back off your mileage a lot because really you've been doing kind of some damage to your tissue. And that's part of with endurance racing. I always tell people, you can kind of fake a marathon. You can go into a marathon untrained and get through it. It may be a disaster, but you can get across that finish line. But when you start talking about, ultra marathons, especially 100 milers and things like that, you can't fake that, especially here on the West Coast where we've got big mountains and things like that. Those downhills, they tear your muscles up, they beat you up. And if you haven't built in that strength and that fibrous tissue in the muscles, if you try to do it untrained, you'll have too much muscle damage, too much enzymes being dumped into your kidneys. You might be looking at kidney failure before you ever get across the finish line. You'll have too many other issues that it'll stop you from making it there. So that taper is you've been building up, kind of doing damage to your body, let it recover, do damage to your body, let it recover stronger. It's coming back stronger. It's come back tougher. But then right before the race, you want to start backing off those miles significantly less because now your body's just getting fresh and everything's getting healed up nicely. I always tell people during that taper, you're going to feel junky. You feel stiff, you feel tight, you got to watch your diet because you're not putting in as many miles, so back your calories off just a little bit. So you don't start putting on any extra body fat that you don't need. You don't need extra weight to carry around, those kind of things. But that taper is you're just slowly back off the miles so that come race day, your body's completely fresh, everything's healed up, and you're ready to go. And I always tell people, you might feel junky, but don't worry, that's you're
part of it.
Just fine. Yeah.
So you mentioned the kidneys, and I just want to ask a quick question. Is there a way to better protect your kidneys as you're going into these types of things? Because that's something I have noticed when I go extreme with things that I can feel the ache in my kidneys and I start to panic.
Yeah. So a couple of things is you want to avoid NSAIDs. And so a lot of people will use NSAIDs as a kind of a pain reliever. It's an anti-inflammatory, but
so like ibuprofen.
Ibuprofen, yeah, exactly. Ibuprofen, Advil, those kind of things. Those are tough on the kidneys. In fact, there's been some people who have ended up in the hospital with kidney failure in some big ultra marathons because they were using NSAIDs during the race to keep the inflammation down, but they just pushed it a little too much. And these are top end elite runners.
Yeah, they're trying to
big race. I was like, so and so ended up in the hospital.
Yeah.
And it's kidney stuff.
And I could see somebody thinking it's a golden ticket because, it drops my inflammation and I'm not going to feel all of my pain.
Right.
But in reality, there's a double-edged sword there.
Exactly. It's funny. It reminds me of this race I did once. It was a 50 miler in Reno. And it was an interesting course because it was 50 mile and a 50K going on at the same time. And this is a lot of the old timer ultra marathoners were out there. In fact, Gordy Ainsley was out there. He was the first 100-mile ultra marathoner. He was the Tevis Cup 100-mile horse race. He was in that. He's in the Horse Racing Hall of Fame as well as in the Ultra Running Hall of Fame.
Wow!
And his horse came up lame, and he ended up saying, "Well, I'll just run it." And everybody said, "Well, you can't run 100 miles through the Sierra Nevadas." He did. And then when he crossed the finish line, they gave him a belt buckle like they did everybody else. And then they said, "Hey, maybe we can make this a running event." And that was the next year was the first Western States 100, which is the kind of the granddaddy of all 100 milers.
Wow.
But so he was there. So he's the grandfather of ultra running. And I came at this aid station where the 50 milers and 50Kers were crossing, and he was running the 50K. He's quite a bit older now.
Which is about 30 miles.
31 miles, 31 miles. And so we're coming at this aid station at the same time. And there was a gentleman there who, he's coming in, he's asking the aid station, do you guys have anything? Do you guys have any ibuprofen or any Tylenol or anything like that? And it's funny because this is Gordy Ainsley, this is the grandfather, the master,
the guy.
Yeah. And he says, well, what do you need the Tylenol for, the Advil? And the guy said, well, just for the pain. What do you use for the pain? And he's like, well, if I couldn't deal with the pain, I shouldn't be out here. And it's like, he just got schooled by the master,
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's the thing is you want to know what your body's telling you. You don't want to hide things. Other words, especially for an event that's that long, it's usually the mistakes you make are early on that you end up paying for 10 hours down the road. That kind of things.
And it's impressive. And you listen to the godfather of it when he's willing to get off a lame horse and run it.
Exactly.
It's one thing if you show up to an event to run. When you just decide to run, that guy's pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
And you take that advice when you can get it. Now that you're doing marathons, triathlons in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Right. You get this regiment going, and let me know when you started it, but you're doing a thing where you're getting up no later than 3 a.m. every day. And when you and I talked initially, it actually was commendable to me that you would get up at that time so you could work out so that your workouts did not impede on family time and you supporting your kids and your wife and their other endeavors and whatever comes up.
Yeah, so I actually started that early on when I was even training for marathons, because at that point I'd be at work at 7, and so in order to get my workout in, get home before the kids got up, I kind of have a routine. I get up in the morning. I always want to have a cup of coffee. I sit and read my Bible for at least a half an hour, and then I work out. And I needed to get up at 3 in order to do that and get my workout in, and then get back and say, oh, good, everybody's still in bed. So that way I knew I didn't take up any family time. And then that became one of those things too, as I started doing longer things like triathlons, things like ultra marathons and things like that I would even sometimes get up at midnight to get a 6-hour bike ride in.
Wow.
Or and those are all in the garage on a trainer because didn't want to be out on the road at midnight. Or sometimes I'd be in Forest Park at 2 a.m. running, getting up 4, 6 hour, 8 hour run in the morning, and again coming home in time. Oh, good, everybody's still in bed. It made for being pretty tired, but for me it was important because that's one thing in the endurance, especially the ultra endurance world. A lot of people that do endurance racing, it's a real struggle for the family because they're gone so much. Dad's always training or mom's always training. They're always gone, especially like on the bike, where you put in long hours. So my thing was always, how can I do this and not have it have a big impact on my family?
And there's also like a superhero factor to it. And tell me if you feel differently, but it's like when you get up and you check that many boxes in the morning before anyone else is moving, because when I would do radio shows, you get up at 3:30 and do anywhere between 2,000 and 2,800 push-ups before I would, get in the shower and call it a day and get the day going. And for years, I never even would tell people that was what I would do. But when you get to work and it's 5:45 in the morning and everyone else is like barely got their eyes open and they're like, oh my God, how are we here? And in the back of your head that you've already been crushing for hours and that if you choose to work out again later, that's great, but you already checked the box. There's something special about it. And I always felt like that morning workout, if you want to be selfish about it, people who work out in the evening, you work out, you go to bed, you lose half of it, you wake up, you do your whole day, you work out, you go to bed, you lose half of it. You spend very little time in the sweet spot. But if you do what you do and you do what I did, you start and finish every day at your peak look and feel.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I treasure those times now too, in the morning. I have started trying to take better care of myself by getting a little bit more sleep now, making that a little bit more of an important factor. It's funny, I got an Oura ring about a year and a half ago, maybe a year ago.
Yeah.
And just to check to see, it's like, hey, I do fine on very little sleep. I used to always say, man, it's great because I get 28-hour days. Everybody else has 24-hour days. I get 28-hour days because
Yeah.
I only have to sleep 4 hours a night, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And I got the Oura Ring, and I was able to, and from that I found, okay, one, don't watch TV at night. Don't drink caffeine because I could drink a pot of coffee and go straight to bed. Now, as I try not to drink coffee in the afternoon, or at least after 2.
Yeah.
And then no sugar or heavy meals in the evening. And I found that makes a big difference. But what I found from the Oura Ring was that, one, I wasn't getting any REM sleep because just as I barely start to get REM sleep, I'd get up. And so I never gave myself a chance. And so now I get up at 4. I try to go to bed early. So my new thing now is I get up at 4 a.m. every morning, and it still gives me time to get all the things I need to do. I only start work at 8:30. We're empty nesters now. I'm still trying to, it's funny because it'll be 6 a.m. on the weekend. And I feel like, I missed my window. I can't work out today. And my wife's like, honey, you can still work out. It's okay.
Yeah, most people aren't up. It's the weekend.
I missed my sweet spot, but it's like, no, it's good. It's good. It was good. It was good doing that because it did work well for my family.
Yeah. And I think it's also important, that last part you talked about, that you do have to listen to not just the statistics about it, but to your body. And I didn't get a successful sleep score on my Apple Watch a single time in that 10 years that I told you about.
Yeah.
Now I do sometimes, yeah, you got a 91. It's like, oh, well, how'd I get a 91? And my wife, I was telling her about you, and I'm like, yeah, this Drake guy, him and I have a lot of the same tendencies. And I'm like, kind of going through some of your stuff. And she's like, and I'm like, yeah, and he gets up at 3 and I get up at 3:30, or I've gotten up at 3:30. And she goes, are you going to tell him that you're not currently getting up at 3:30? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to tell him. And she's like, okay, because you're not getting up at 3. I'm like, I'm still getting up hours before you guys. And I'm still, hit my Peloton, hit my push-ups, do the whole thing. But I am starting to think that I need to, for recovery and for, mental clarity and everything, I do need to get a little bit more sleep than I was. Because I was getting 5 a night. And I really want to try and be at that 6+ number. But it's easier said than done sometimes.
Yeah.
But you're better probably about the no TV. It's like, I grind all day, and I do like to, and especially I like to watch sports. And right now, like the sports is on until, 9 o'clock. And it's like, it's hard to be like, oh, shucks, it's in overtime, heading to bed. That's the hard part for me. And, I go through lines of being more and less disciplined with that. But 25 years at 3 a.m., that's commendable.
Yeah, it was a long time. It became kind of like a lifestyle,
And it becomes who you are, right?
Oh, totally.
Like Drew, the push-up guy, one reason I can never stop it is for fear that one of my friends that I haven't seen forever is going to be like, oh, this is the guy right here. And then you have to be like, I'm not the guy. Yeah, if you want to be the guy, you have to do the work. And so I continue to absolutely put myself through it. Now, you kind of introduced your family to this whole endurance thing too, because it says here that you ran some races with your daughter and other members of your family.
Yeah, it was fun. When I had done a half marathon with my dad at Pacific Crest one year, and that's where they did the big Pacific Crest half Ironman as well.
So is that on the Pacific Crest Trail?
No, it was all in Sun River.
Oh, okay.
And the bike course was usually the swim was in Wickiup Reservoir, and then the bike was along the Cascade Lakes Highway and through there, and then all the run was within Sun River proper.
Yeah, and the Pacific Crest Trail is just right off of there anyway, through Sisters and the whole.
Yeah, I've done tons of races along different parts of the Pacific Crest Trail.
Beautiful.
California, Oregon, Washington. It's always a nice part when you have a race and you get on the PCT. It's like, oh, that's the nice part of the trail. You always, you have a good trail there.
And being in Sun River, I love the weather and environment there. It does just kind of scream like, let's get out and do something. So you're in the right place to be kind of training that up.
Yes, no, exactly. And so we would go as a family, and my girls would do the splash pedal dash they had for the kids. And then as they got a little bit older, they would do the 5K. My wife would maybe do the 5K or the 10K. I would do that with them as well. And then my brother and my sister-in-law and I would all do the half Ironman together. So we started, it became this whole family event, and the girls grew up seeing that. And my oldest daughter, we used to run together. We were part of the Oregon Road Runners Club. And this is when she was 8, 9, 10, or 19, and 11, right in that era. And we'd do a lot of 5Ks and 10Ks together. And and depending on how you finished in your age group, you got points for the year. Well, she always took first place in her age group. So she always got 6 points. You get 6 points if you took first. And at the end of the year, they'd do an award ceremony where you go and
total it all up.
Yeah, exactly. And you get awards for the age group. And so, of course, every year she would win her age group. She'd come and get first place. What's funny is every year I would get, like, for males 35 to 39, I'd be getting second place overall for the year, one time third place, and it's like, well, every single race I did was side by side with my 9, 10, 11-year-old daughter. So had my daughter been a 35 to 39-year-old male, she would have been taken second.
She would have also been
up
up there.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not doing anything but running with my daughter, So she was a good runner. And then my twins started running, and we started doing some 5Ks and 10Ks together. And then finally, one of my daughters, Brianna, she, I think it was her junior year in high school, she said, Dad, I want to run a marathon. And we had done a couple half marathons and we kind of building up her training and stuff. And I said, okay. And I thought, well, just in case it's one and done, let's pick the Disney World Marathon.
Okay.
It'll be a ton of fun. You know?
I didn't even know they had that.
Yeah. I'd actually ran it previously with a friend one year. Just kind of went on a vacation there, and that was
kind of compartmentalized that this could be good for them.
Yeah, too, because I knew, well, you run through all the parks before the parks are open.
Oh, cool.
Disney puts it on, so all the in between, they got tons of activities, entertainment, and then I also knew they have tons of characters along the way you can take pictures with and things like that. And I thought, too, if there's a struggle going on, it's oh, hon, let's stop and take a picture here with Belle, And
you can sugarcoat it if it goes south.
And I know she's getting a little break here while we're waiting to take the picture, And so, what was really cool about that, I remember with Brianna, that first marathon, she was my first daughter that ran a marathon, was I put her on a training program. So I'd already had kind of built her up about that half marathon distance. And then I put her on a 6-month training program, about 100 training runs. And we literally ran probably 98 of those 100 training runs together. So every day when I get home from work, okay, baby, let's get our run in, And then on the weekends, okay, Saturday's our long run day. And if it was really long, we'd go up to Forest Park and put the long run out there. And she'd always, it was always a little bit harder there than what the race was going to be. But that time that we got to spend together, every night.
Priceless.
And it's during the winter time. So it's Christmas time too. So let's go at night and look at Christmas lights. We knew the neighborhoods we wanted to run. Oh, it was very priceless, very, very bonding.
Yeah.
And so that was amazing. I loved that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. And as a girl dad, anytime you get those moments, and you never know like how fleeting they are. And now, granted, I know that you've got a great relationship with your family and it still works out for you, but you never know when they're going to get a little older and be like, you're not cool, or like, I'm over it. And so you're like, I'll just take everything I can get and just bank it as core memories.
Exactly.
And that's just impressive.
And I think from that too, seeing that, the very next year, her twin sister said, hey, Dad, I want to run a marathon too. I said, well, let's do Disney World. So then the next year we did Disney World, got to have that same experience.
That is so
all the training runs together and then doing the race, side by side. So
that is truly impressive. Now, as you're doing all this, you're still kind of like starting to push yourself and you're kind of going to a new level of fitness, and you go from marathons to triathlons. What led you to that?
Yeah, so it was at Pacific Crest, seeing the triathletes, so I ran that half marathon with my dad. And then afterwards, we started seeing the triathletes coming through and just looking at their physiques and just looking at their level of fitness of that. Man, that looks awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Doing what I just did, but having done a 56-mile bike ride before that and the swim. And so then we decided, hey, let's do this next year. And my brother, who's just a couple years older than myself, and his wife, Kim, we decided, hey, let's kind of do this together. So we'd signed up for a triathlon at Blue Lake, an Olympic triathlon, and then we're going to do the half Ironman. It was a few weeks after that.
So is you've been training up towards this? Was your brother doing the same types of things, or was he just like, let's see how this rolls?
They were athletic, and we were doing some of these things together. We'd done a marathon together with my dad at Arizona Rock and Roll Marathon, and so and my brother is an extreme athlete. He's probably one of the best athletes I had ever met.
So if he puts his mind to it, it's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. He has this athletic prowess and ability that he can do things that most people wouldn't be able to do on very less training, just because he's got the athleticism to it to be able to do that.
Okay, that makes sense. And so they jump on board.
Yeah, so they jump on board, and we started doing Pacific Crest every year, and we did that like about 3 years in a row. And then someone said, well, are you ever going to do an Ironman? I said, well, man, until I can finish a half Ironman under 6 hours, I don't want to do an Ironman because I don't want to be out there that long. And I was finishing Pacific Crest in like, 6:30, 6:20, that kind of thing. And then that year, I finished under 6 hours, and it's like, okay,
You made the promise, and you're like,
we made it
uh-oh.
under. And so the same weekend is Ironman Coeur d'Alene. And
Okay.
in order to get in, you got to sign up online. And my brother and I, we finished the half Ironman. I said, hey, I came under 6. I want to sign up for the Ironman. He said, let's do it. And so my brother and I both went down to the library the next day when registration opened up. We're waiting for it to like the 7 a.m. open, and got on there real quick and got our names in there and got signed up and signed up for our first Ironman together. So
That is incredible. Now, when you do an Ironman, do you train differently, or how do you switch things up? Now, obviously, you got to work swimming in and more biking. Are you training all 3 all the time, or how are you doing?
We are training all 3 all the time. For me, my strength was on the bike and the run. I built in a nice, strong running background, from running marathons, and then and biking is I found. And I even found even now, when there's periods of times when I'm maybe not doing triathlons and just doing ultras, I still bike. Because biking is a great way to keep the strength in the legs and to work the legs and to build a big aerobic motor, but without pounding so much that the running does.
Yeah.
So I will incorporate that in between. So the bulk is still the bike and the run, and then just make sure you can get through the swim well. And the swim is kind of nice because you can put a good swim workout in afterwards. Like, wow, I did a good workout and my legs aren't shot.
Yeah.
Which was different than all the other training.
Yeah, which is important. And I do believe that the bicycle for anybody, even if you're not an endurance athlete, I think everyone should have. If you live in a beautiful place, your bike can be outside all the time. I feel like everybody should have a stationary bike. I have one. I have a minimum of 150 miles I have to do a month, which is nothing compared to what you guys are doing, but always keeping the motor going and then not compromising my joints at the same time. So I just have that in the back of my head that that's just kind of like having the glass of water in the morning. You're like, okay, got to do that, and then get going.
Very wise, yeah.
And maybe it'll build to some longevity. The Fit for Radio podcast is brought to you by the Stafford Hills Club. And if you haven't been here, I really wish you would check it out because we've been spending so much time at the pool right now, saltwater too, so it's not messing with your skin and your hair, and it's just nicer, easier to deal with all the way around. Also, premier fitness facilities and a staff that is so kind and knowledgeable that it's second to none. There's a reason they were voted the best health and wellness facility in the Portland area. You want to get in where you fit in. I would love to be sitting there right by the pool with you, having a cold beverage, maybe enjoying something from the Saltwater Grill, which is open right now. And my kids love it so much, in fact, that they drag me all over the pool trying to get a hot dog and an ice cream sandwich. Go check them out today, staffordhills.com. Tell them Drew sent you for half off your initiation. The Fit for Radio podcast is also brought to you by Motorsport Hillsboro, who have a serious deal for you right now. I've been talking about this, and I've been riding the Gas electric mountain bike, which is now $3,000 off MSRP. And why and how? Well, Motorsport Hillsboro bought up the inventory to bring the savings back to you. We're talking lightweight frame, powerful motor, and built for the trails. The more you go hard, it goes right along with you, faster, harder, and farther than anything you're used to. You've never seen the second part of that trail? Well, you will now. Just head out to Motorsport Hillsboro and get yourself on a Gas G Light Trail 2.0 electric mountain bike. So you've really kind of ramped it up. You're now like fully addicted to this endurance thing, but you take it up another notch, and you've done triathlons now, you've done marathons, but you go up to the 100-milers in 2010. Now that I've been meaning to ask. Now I've had a couple of people who are like you and go extreme on these things, but it just, for me, I always think of it as so much more when you go up to that level. From top to bottom, just what comes to mind is like blistering, rashes, chafing, what happens to your stomach or your bowels, or, like when you have to use the restroom, what is the body? Is it rejecting things? When you move up to 100 miles quickly, why did you go there? And then what was like, were there big surprises when you went to that, or those of us who don't do it overthinking it?
Yeah. I always tend to like to see what are the limits. And I had a couple patients who were veteran ultra runners. One of them, the lady, she was an elite ultra runner, and they'd been talking to me. They'd been coming in as patients, and they'd been talking. Oh, doc, you gotta do an ultra marathon with us sometime. I said, oh, okay, if I've got the time, finally they talked me into doing a 50K, then a 50 miler, and they said, oh, you're ready for it. You need to do a 100 miler. And then what I found just doing a 50 miler is like, wow, it's not like just 2 marathons. It's like that second one is a totally different story than what the first one is.
Mhm.
And so I thought, oh wow, I can't even imagine what another one would be like. But I finally, I said, okay, let's go for it. So I signed up for a 100 miler. It was a Rocky Raccoon 100 miler. Actually, it was great. My brother was my crew for that, and so because we'd done a few Ironmans together at that point, and he knew me athletically more than anybody. And I knew he'd be very attentive to details. And so he flew with me out to Texas and to do that first 100 miler. And yeah, it was a flatter course, so it wasn't super hilly, which was nice. And it was a 20-mile loop that you ran 4 times or 5 times, I'm sorry. And then, and so he would meet me at certain places. And all I knew is, that second half, man, it started getting so hard. And it was also an interesting one because at night you would see all these bright lights all over the ground, as your headlamps shining off them, and you're wondering, what are all these lights, And then as you got closer to them, you realized they were all spiders. So you realize, oh man, there's just thousands of spiders everywhere that would come out, and then every once in a while you'd see the red eyes out there, and those are alligators because there's a bunch of alligator stands through here. And so my brother runs the last 20 miles with me. And I'm telling him these stories, and he's like, oh, are you kidding me? There's all these spiders out here and stuff, and alligator stands in case you get cornered by an alligator. But so he was, it was great having him there with me, and we get through it. I get through it, and I'm just shot. He gets us back to our hotel, and I remember just laying on the bed. I could barely move, and asked him, Tony, could you lift my left leg and move that ice pack here? Tony, I just didn't have the power to lift my legs,
That's where it's nice that he's your brother.
Yes, exactly. And I also remember when I was done, it's like, I just wanted to shower so bad. Just had to get out of those clothes. And I remember I had to go to the bathroom. And I went to the bathroom, and I'm looking and thinking, holy cow, it looks like I'm peeing a latte or something. And that's when I realized, there's a lot of blood mixed in with there as well. Mm-hmm. And that's when and a lot of enzymes from the muscles, mixed in with that. And I thought, my muscles have had some damage. And so that first ultra marathon, it's like that was I got to see just what it does to the body in the midst of that too. And then from there, it didn't continue to be that bad. I never had the latte urine after that, but definitely with the muscle breakdown, you have to put the training in on that. Do really hard hill training to just beat your legs up so that they can handle the big
build it up,
especially the ones that we have out here. And then talking about body rejection and things like that. I think I've ran a couple dozen 100 milers now, and I think out of all those, I think there's only 3 ever where I didn't throw up at some point.
So the body is like, what's going on?
Yeah, the body. And I always feel it's kind of like my body saying, "Okay, how can I get him to stop doing this?
Let's take a break."
Yeah, exactly.
And if you're heaving, you're going to break.
Yeah, and at some point, and it's a roller coaster. It's this big roller coaster where you'll feel like one moment just and even no matter how fit I was at the most fit, 30 miles, that's kind of fun. After 30 miles, it's just hard. It just gets hard, and you just got to barrel down. And, I got another 10 hours of this, or 15 or 20 hours of just pain and just putting in the effort and riding this roller coaster where you'll feel like, man, I can't hardly move at all. And man, I'm feeling pretty good. And when you get those feelings, you capitalize on that because it's not going to last forever.
Oh, yeah.
You keep riding that roller coaster and you keep figuring out. And I think every ultra runner's got their bathroom stories, because you're eating and drinking out there. You're going to have to go to the bathroom. The beauty with trail running is there's a bathroom behind every bush.
Yeah, that's true.
You got places you can find to go and stuff like that. But what you're going to eat and how you're going to eat and how you're going to fuel yourself. I know I couldn't handle gels for after 6 to 8 hours in the heat. It would almost heave just even holding one in my hand. My body.
Yeah, you knew that taste and that the texture was coming.
Exactly. And I remember I ran 100 once where I love caramel. I absolutely love caramel. And so I thought, I'm going to $100,000 bars, the little fun size, the Halloween size. I ran the whole 100-miler on 100 ground bars. Yeah, I'd eat one of the little fun size every 20 minutes, and so I went through dozens of those.
That's amazing.
It fueled me, and even 20 hours in, it's like, oh yeah, I still love them. Yeah. And so,
which is smarter, you walk into like a Dick's Sporting Goods and you're like, oh, I'll get the sour apple and this weird peach puree. That's going to make you heave.
Yeah. And those aren't bad on shorter races, but the longer races, like no. And what's great, especially doing some of the classic 100-milers, you get the aid station captains who's like, I've been a captain of this aid station for, 10 years. And so they're all trying to outdo each other. And so I've had some really good food out on the trails. I remember the Tahoe Rim Trail. It came out of the mountains this one time at this aid station. This guy's out there grilling up cheeseburgers. So I left that aid station with a cheeseburger in each hand,
awesome.
just eating them down. Anytime I had homemade cookies, homemade brownies, I'll stuff those in my pockets and eat those on the go and stuff.
Yeah. I had one lady on here who ran these distances, and I was asking him like, well, that doesn't seem like good fuel for your body. And she's like, well, you're going so hard that whatever it is, your body just eats it up. Yeah. I was using an example of somebody had made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and like gone to the effort to cutting the crusts off for these people. And they were just eating them with their eyes closed, like, where it's like stuck to your mouth, but it was like pure ecstasy. That was just like, it was just everything in that moment. And they probably crushed afterwards. I think it's pretty cool, just to go back for a second, that your brother was there to help you with the recovery and stuff. When I did my world record attempt, I brought my brothers with me here to the club to do it. And, 3/4 of the way through, my older brothers, who are not here to coddle me, one of them's got a wet towel that he's like rubbing on my back and like basically whispering sweet nothings in my ear to like keep me going. A guy who does not talk to me that way. So it's nice when they're family, because when you're breaking down, you need them.
Yeah.
Right. And so you pull that off, and then you start doing Ultramans. What is an Ultraman in comparison to these other races?
Yeah, so Ultraman is a triathlon. It's a extra endurance triathlon. It's about, the swim is it's a 10K swim, and then it's a 274-mile bike, and then a 52.4-mile run. So it's about a 2.5 times Ironman swim, about a 2.5 Ironman times bike, and a double marathon and double Ironman run at the end.
Because a triathlon just isn't enough.
Yes. Yeah. Well, it was funny. It was actually, I was in the package pickup line for Ironman Arizona one year, and there was a person in front of me carrying a bag, and it said, Ultraman World Championship. I thought, oh, what's this? And I'm seeing the distances. I'm thinking, oh man, this is even more. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I tap her and I asked her, hey, I see your bag. What is it? Oh yeah, my husband did this race the last year, and so she told me all about it. And so I went straight from package pickup to get on my phone to go, okay, what's Ultraman all about? And then saw what it was. Okay, I got to find a qualifier to do the Ultraman World Championships, and there was one in Canada. So I quickly signed up for Ultraman Canada, and it's you have to kind of put in your bio, and because it's an invitation only race.
So you have to kind of let them know you're capable.
Here's what I've done. And then you wait and see if you get an invite. And so I put that in, and then I got the invite to come that year. So
that's cool. Now you compete in the Ultraman Canada, then competed in the Ultraman World Championships in 2016.
Yeah.
So is that something you had to hit a certain time to qualify for?
At Ultraman Canada, it's funny because I had my brother come. He was my main crew, him and a friend, Mark. And I knew they would get along really well. They were both good friends. My brother knew me athletically. And then Mark's job was to, make me not have to think. You keep track of my calories, my water intake, those kind of things.
You just grind.
Yeah. And the difference with an Ultraman is your crew is with you the whole time. And so,
are they in a car then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's kind of like Tour de France.
Yeah, they're in a crew vehicle. So, my brother actually did all the athletes, and that's the difference too. Now, Ironman, you're going to have, like maybe 2,000, 2,500 people in Ironman. Ultraman, you have maximum field of 35, 40 at the World Championships. So it's a very small group of people. And then every athlete in the water, because it's 10K swim, this is going to take you, 3.5 or 4.5 hours to complete. Every athlete has their own swim escort. And so my brother was my swim escort. He was in a kayak next to me what was funny is what I didn't know was they had gotten him a touring kayak, which is not nearly as stable. And while
So he's dealing with it.
yeah, so while I'm getting ready, he's getting ready to launch and he dumps himself. And he's like in a foot of water, and he's like going, oh no, if I can't balance this, how am I going to take?
I'm going to lose my brother.
Yeah. So I don't know this is going on. He tells me this after the race and stuff. But so he was my crew on the water the whole way. He's with me. It's funny too because you start off 10K, you can't see that far across the lake. So so the race director is like, just swim that way. Eventually, you'll see a buoy. And I was about an hour into the swim before I first looked up and went, oh, I think I see some little pink ball on the water. Well, I know that ball's 5 feet tall, but it's just a little dot out there. But it took me an hour before I could even see it,
And so it's such a long way. Are you having to stop, tread water, and rest?
My brother had some water bottles with him, and I told him every half hour, just get my attention, and then I could stop. He could toss me the bottle. I could
Fresh water.
And then go and then keep going. And so, you don't really rest other than when you take those quick little breaks. You can hold on to the boat if you want, but you can't make any forward progress or anything like that.
Okay. That would be convenient.
Yeah.
Row, Tony. Now, so you pull off the World Championships, you complete that race.
Yeah. So after Ultraman Canada, I again invite to go to the World Championships. Went and did the World Championships, and then my family was my crew there. And so, because then they want to be a part of that. They're leapfrogging me the whole time. It is over the course of 3 days instead of just one day. The first day you do the swim and the first 90 miles on the bike. And then the next day it's 174 miles and then on the bike. And then the third day is the run. And so the whole time they're leapfrogging you on the course. What was funny was, at the start, I get out of the water and everybody's, hey, cheering and stuff. And then I take off on the bike and they'll leapfrog me and they're getting out of the car. Go, Dad, go, Dad. Well, by that second day, one kid's getting out of the car. Need anything, Dad?
Their toes.
Oh, they're exactly, because they've been following the whole time and stuff. And it was funny because even at the end of the race, they were like, oh, I'm so sore and achy, and it's like, from getting in and out of the car the whole time.
You're like, don't worry, guys, I'm fine. But it's funny, it's a real endurance race when your crew is exhausted.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
So it shows that you've taken it to another level. Now you actually got to do an Ironman, the Ironman, the World Championships in Kona.
Yes. I just did that in 2024. So I got an invite from Ironman Foundation to come do it. I've been doing Ironmans for a long time. There was a little hiatus. COVID kind of messed everything up, because everything was canceled. And then when they started doing races again, they were all kind of weird. It's like, oh, hey, you can't gather before or after the race, or for the ultramarathons, there won't be anybody at the aid stations. You got to wear a mask at the start of the race. And I thought,
it gets weird.
Forget all that. I'm gonna wait till things get normal. And so there was a little bit of hiatus. And so, were
you running alone during that time?
Yeah, and I wasn't doing quite as much as what I had been doing for so long, because I always had a race on the schedule. I always had a race on the schedule. So people used to always ask me, man, you must work out a lot. I said, no, I hardly work out at all. Now I train a lot.
Yeah,
I do train a lot, and that's the whole thing is I was always training. I had a specific workout I was doing that day because it's getting me somewhere, because I've got something on the calendar.
Mm-hmm.
And with nothing on the calendar, it's like, oh, now I just feel like I'm working out,
Which is funny because people are like, oh, you must work out. You're like, I don't, I train. To them, that's the same thing. But in your mind,
totally
it's
different.
You have a plan and there's it's not a panic, but it's I have to do this because this day is coming.
Exactly. Because I know if I don't, I'm going to suffer.
Because you're doing for this what they do for a trip to Cabo, or they know they got to get in a bikini, or they got to be in swim trunks in front of everyone. They circle a date and work out towards it. You're training towards a big event. Now, I thought it was interesting. I just want one more question about Kona, because I had a guy on here who's done 45 Ironmans, and he told me,
right?
Bob Jordan, one of my heroes. And Bob said that, you have to qualify for Kona at another Ironman and finish in a certain thing, or you have to basically apply for a golden ticket. How did you get?
So I got an invite from the Ironman Foundation. Part of it was from doing the Ultraman World Championship is on Kona. And the race director there, they do things with Ironman as well.
Okay.
And so I think she'd put my name in there saying, hey, give this guy an invite. And so I'd gotten an invite from just the history of what I had with Ironman already, and then and have putting in the lottery and doing, and then the things I'd done with the Ultraman World Championships, that they send that invite to me, and it's like, man, I'm getting an invite, I'm taking it, because I always wanted to do Kona, you know.
Absolutely.
That was always a dream. So.
I mean, honestly, even if you get the golden ticket, you go to Kona. I mean, for a triathlete, it's the Mecca, it's the Super Bowl, it's everything you could ever imagine that you want it to be.
Exactly.
Now, for you, I thought this was an interesting stat, and it leads me to my next question. And I do want to get into the next phase of your life with your grandkids and everything, because I think that's a really cool thing that you've got your head wrapped around. But it says here that you ran the Portland Marathon at least 20 times, but only raced it 3 times. And what I'm gathering here is you're pacing for other people?
Yes. Yeah. It's funny. One of the things I found is, especially when I started doing ultramarathons and things like that, I would just run marathons just kind of more for fun. And I've got a very large patient base. Patients were always interested in what I was doing. I'd always be encouraging people, hey, sign up for something. Let's do something, you know, or hey, I'll help you. I'll help you write out a training plan for you and things like that. And so all those other times I was either running with a staff member or a patient and helping them to either qualify for Boston or finish, just to complete their first marathon. It's like, I'll run it side by side with, make sure you don't make any of those mistakes that keep you from getting across that finish line. And let's make sure this is a fun experience.
That's impressive.
I always tell people, a lot of training programs I've evaluated, and look at them and they're thinking, well, no wonder you're having a problem. This is too much. You're putting too many miles on your body. You're not recovering enough. And so I always tell people, the goal, really, you need to get to the start line uninjured. And then once you get that start line, now execute the day based upon the training you're able to put in. Because people always, if I feel like I could train more, it's like, well, everybody could train more. You got to quit your job and just, that's all you do. But that's not reality.
Yes.
You know what kind of training you're able to do. And now you got to execute based upon that training. The training was really, really good. Go for it. If you know, oh man, you had some struggles, some injuries, some little things that came up in the way, but now you're at the start line. It's like, okay, you need to work in some walk breaks. When you do that, what kind of pace should you run? You know, those kind of things to make sure that you get across the finish line, and it's not just a torture fest the whole time.
It's pretty cool that you're doing that. And when you were talking earlier about the Disney Marathon, I was like, this is pacing in the early stage here. And I don't know if you're doing that, you know, at the same time, but kind of what you were doing for your daughters with the plan and the training regimen, and so that they could go and do those marathons. You were kind of honing your craft at that early.
I kind of realized that, and I just, even as you mentioned, that's like, yeah, that's exactly what it was. I never even thought about it that way.
Yeah.
All the races that I did with my daughters side by side in training runs with them, because then I'd know exactly what pace should they run. You know, because I know where they're at, so I can set the pace for them now. I know what they're capable of.
And which it's easier to do in a fatherly spot, but like you actually can take that exact same way of talking to someone, because if you're training me to do a marathon, I'm going to listen to you like a father because you've got the knowledge. And if I can just soak it in. And so like, I think that doing it with daughters too, it gives you can almost be more crafty with it. Mm-hmm. How you explain to somebody, you know, if it was your son, it could be as simple as like, just grind it out. Which would likely lead to a disaster. Now, do you find the same joy in pacing someone else as when it's your own achievement?
You know, it's kind of interesting you ask that, because it's I ran the Zion 100 with a patient, and when he had asked me, he actually paced me the last 30 miles on ultramarathon. When he was starting to build up his miles, he said, hey, can I pace you on a race? So, well, I'm doing the Mountain Lakes 100. Why don't you run the last 30 with me?
Yeah.
So he did that, and that was a lot of fun. You know, he really enjoyed getting to see too. You got to see what the tail end of a 100-mile looks like. That last 30 miles, I think, that's when you really see what you're made of. You know, is that last little bit. And so he got to see that, and so he had asked me, well, when I ever run my first 100, could you run it with me just to make sure I don't do anything to keep myself from finishing? I said, sure, of course. So he got ready, and we decided, how about Zion 100? So we signed up for that. We went to do that race. We did it side by side the whole way. And it was funny because the first 30 miles, the whole time, the first 30 miles, Scott, slow down. You're trying to pick up the pace too much. You know, stay back here with me. You know, I always tell people, your first 100-miler, if you feel like, oh, this is a good pace, you know, you're going too fast. You should feel like, oh, this is ridiculously slow. Yeah, perfect. That's where you want to be. And so for the first 30 miles, it was all, you know, slow down, don't go too fast. All night, it was like, Scott, you got to eat more than that. Here, eat this too. What have you eaten so here? Eat this.
The Fit for Radio podcast brought to you in part by Axiom Plumbing, Sewer, and Septic, where they take care of everything water and waste. Any job in the Portland area, including Vancouver, they're on top of it, and they are locally owned and operated. They're not some private equity. It's owned by Bruce, a guy that I trust and have for a long time. Born and raised Oregonian, been here his entire life, and he's here to get you done with a good deal. All you got to do, use the promo code DREW and get 10% off any new services. So get in where you fit in. Get that $500 off a water heater, because when that goes out, you're going to want a discount. You can also give them a call anytime at 971-431-4810 or go online to AxiomPDX.com. Tell them Drew sent you. You won't be disappointed.
So yeah, then at night, it naturally slows you down. It's a little bit, the darkness slows you down. It's a bit cooler, so you can digest a little bit better. So that's when you want to refuel your body as much as you can, because come the next day, it lightens up. You're going to have a little bit more difficult time with that. So the next day, then he was getting tired and he was slowing down. So I was going, come on, Scott, pick it up. Stick with me here. I'm trying to encourage him to stay with me as I'm running the pace. I'm trying to keep him about 2 hours in front of the time cutoff clock. So each aid station, you have to hit at a certain time. It's that way. If something,
give you wiggle room.
If someone goes sideways, I got 2 hours to get him straightened out and get going again. So we're going along, and then finally we were within about 5 miles of the finish line. And that's when it's like, oh, he's got it in the bag, because we could walk it out from there if we needed to, And I told him, Scott, it's all you now, you pick the pace, He slowed down considerably because, he was hurting a lot. But what I found for myself was at that 5 mile mark, that 95 mile mark, 5 miles to go, all of a sudden it's like, I had this joy welling up in me. And I thought, oh, I remember this. I remember when I did Rocky Raccoon with my brother, and I was 5 miles from the finish, and I knew I was going to finish it. That's the same kind of joy I'm having now, but I'm having it for him. And that's when I thought, oh, this is the good stuff. Yeah. And that's when I kind of say, you know what? I've spent so many thousands of hours all by myself in the woods, all by myself training. It's all about the shared experience now. And even now, when he comes in to the office as a patient, we always talk about Zion 100.
Oh, you guys have that bond forever.
Oh yeah. The hallucinations, the different things that happened, at one point, we thought we were seeing trains, because usually you don't see straight lines, but Zion's got a lot of stratification to the rocks. So we'd say, oh, we must be coming on an aid station. I see a train up ahead, and we'd get, it seems like within 50 feet of it, and all of a sudden there are rocks. But man, that was a train. And you could see a train that whole time,
The brain's playing tricks on you.
Oh, yeah.
And having someone there with you to where you both kind of can come out of a moment together and be like, well, that wasn't there. And,
exactly.
And it's like you're not going crazy because it's happening to him too. It's like, oh, this is part of it.
Precisely. Yeah.
And you can tell him like, okay, we're all right.
I tell him about all the different other hallucinations I've seen during races and stuff, and
you make him feel better.
I'll be different. Yeah.
Yeah. That is wild. Now, you paced your son-in-laws when they did it at Lava Man.
Yeah.
And so this is a thing you enjoy doing and are going to continue to do?
Right. The thing that I found, that this is something I've been having fun doing these last few years, is kind of roping people into doing things,
Mm-hmm.
and oh, you should do this, and so I talked a friend into doing Lava Man last year, and now next year he's going to come back to the island and do the half Ironman on the island. And then my son-in-laws, I talked them into doing Lava Man this last year.
Awesome.
And so we went and did that. And we did it together. It was funny because one of my son-in-laws, he's a good swimmer. And my other son-in-law, he was kind of new to swimming. And so I stuck with him on the swim, kind of help break some of the waves for him. I told him, hey, I will swim us a straight line. I'll stay right next to you. And kind of got him through the swim, and he did great. And then he took off on the bike, and I was with him on the bike till we caught my other son-in-law on the bike, and then let him go. And I stuck with my other son-in-law on the rest of the bike. And then on the run, he started having leg cramps. So I helped work the leg cramps out of him, and then help him get him through the run. And just all the little things that came up.
That is so cool, though.
The race that I know from just the experience of, oh, wait, we need to take this kind of fuel and let's get this in you here. So let's slow down. Let's take a walk break here. Okay, now we can start running a little bit, And then he finished out really strong. And now both of them are signed up for the half iron, or for the Lava Man next year.
Oh, that's cool.
I've got a couple friends I'm trying to talk into it. I think I got them talked into it. my brother and sister-in-law might come next year and do the Lava Man too, because they haven't raced for a long time. And so I'm keeping one of my old race bikes here for my brother just in case he needs a bike. It's like I make sure it works out, because I was figuring out that, the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And so
that's so great. You remind me of, he also was on this show, the guy whose world record I tried to beat, Tommy Vu. I should introduce you to him, because his whole goal is to break records and to spread awareness so that other people will attempt to break his records.
Yeah.
Well, in general, he's like, you can break a different record, but he wants anyone and everyone to try to break a world record, because why not?
Yeah.
And so like, that's how he motivates others. And it's kind of like what you're doing here, where you're spreading this whole feeling person by person, and being a triple girl dad like you are, all you hope is that your kids find somebody who's going to take care of them, treat them right, and that you can get along with a little bit. And you've been gifted with kids who want to run with you, son-in-laws who want to train with you and do the Lava Man and to listen to you and be a part of that. Like, that's a gift.
Yeah, it's I've definitely been blessed. I've been blessed. I was telling my wife the other day, just the fact that like our daughters call her 2-3 times every day, and it's like, that is just an awesome thing. And
yes,
so
it is.
and again, be able to have these shared experiences where they're not just stories of, oh, let me tell you about this race that I did, but it says like, remember when we did this. And my daughters had been able to be part of some of the ultramarathons I've ran, where they'll do a little 6-mile section in the middle of the night with me, and I
Awesome.
remember those, and they remember those, and they remember the big torrential rains and crossing rivers and things like that.
Yeah.
I know my one daughter, Brittany, she did a part of the Bryce 100 with me, and it was the hairiest of all ultramarathon terrains, and then she did it. It's like, way to go.
Yeah, and it's something to be proud of. Like my kids are just at the soccer practice phase of life, but you just want to see them try, and you want to see them to think that this is as far as they can go, and then to jump past that, and it'll spread to so many other aspects of their life. And you've done a really, really great job of that. And to help others achieve the things that you have too, is you're keeping the infection of it alive, right? Because like the patient that you ran it with, he's jazzed about that. I bet you, and he goes into other circles, he talks to them about it. And then when they get a little inkling that they want to do it, he's the infectious one. It's like, nah, man, there's a feeling, you need to go hallucinate with your buddy while you're running a trail in the middle of the night in the spiders and alligators and everything else. But it's so cool. Now, you even paced your son-in-law on a 50K as well, which is that 31 miler.
Yeah. But, my 2 of my kids live on the Big Island, and the one family, before they moved there, just about a year and a half ago, he did his first 50K, Waste Wonder, and so we ran that together side by side, and we got on some training runs together, and that was a huge accomplishment for him, and again, it's one of those things, we've got that shared experience now, and every time I see him wear his wife's shirt or hat, it's like we talk again about, remember this, remember different parts, and so again, it's that shared experience and that history together versus just stories,
Yeah, and he wants to do it, like, whereas I was forced to go fishing with my father-in-law and hear his stories is different than we share this thing together. It's a bond rather than a required sit down or almost like being in class because I have to, because he's my wife's dad. It just feels like something so much different that you've built there.
Yeah, I've talked about, I wanted to start doing, I'd really like to do a couple more 100-milers coming up, and then one on Oahu. I've done it before. It's the Hurt 100. It's really rough terrain, but it's something that's like, hey, this is something I could do and have my family there, because they can island hop over with.
Yeah.
And my son-in-law, he's like, yes, do it, because he wants to pace me. He wants to be out there with me, because it's one that's, you could run sections with someone. And so that's my thoughts too, is picking races that are paceable. And because I never used the pacer ever, for a long time. I just always would just go do it all by myself. But then when that patient ran that last 30 with me on the one, it's like, that was really fun, just being with someone out there.
Yeah.
And now having the opportunity have my family be out there and stuff. I'm just looking for those kind of opportunities now where I can pull in family and friends and a race that we could do sections together, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. And you're not going to stop there. What I think is cool is, you have grandkids now and you're spending a lot of time with them. That's why you're spending more time over on the island.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think it's awesome because you told me that you would like to keep going long enough in case they would like to do marathons or triathlons, that if they asked you, you could do it.
Exactly. That's one of the things I'm thinking about longevity a little bit more now too. Yeah, I got to make sure because my oldest grandson's 5, and I've got granddaughters that are just turning 3 this summer, and then a newborn, and then another one's on the way. So I've got grandchild number 5 on the way, and I figure we'll just keep having more from there. But my goal is I would love to because I know that like right now we do the turkey trot every year over there at the Fairmont Orchid, and they have a little kids race, and then the adults will do the 5K. I'm thinking maybe another year or two. My grandson's like, hey, you want to do the 5K? And by
awesome.
Golly, we're going to do every step side by side.
That's right. And you pace them right through that.
Exactly. And my thing is I think, yeah, I would love to, one is if any of my grandkids ever say, man, I want to run a marathon, I want to make sure Papa can still say, hey, I'll do it with you.
Yeah.
So I got to make sure I don't wear myself out. I also got to keep myself fit enough that I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to be able to again have those shared memories with them. And as they've gotten older, I had all my fondest childhood memories are with my grandparents. I was very close to my grandparents. Probably some of the most precious relationships I had as a child growing up was with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And when I had kids, I wanted to provide that opportunity for them to have that relationship with their grandparents. And now that I have grandkids, it's like I want to be there. That's why we do travel so much, is we want to be there all the time to be creating those relationships with them, give them the opportunity to have the same feelings that I have about my grandparents. Sometimes people say, well, be with them now because later they might not want to be. It's like, man, I always want to be with my grandparents.
Yeah.
And if as an adult, I'd love being with my grandma and my grandpa.
Yeah.
And so, I think we'll have that kind of relationship. And so, but my thing is I want to do some things. I want to do the Ultraman World Championship one more time. And the race directors told me, hey, Drake, you got a slot anytime you want it.
Nice.
It's like, okay, I just know what, and my kids are like, yeah, Dad, go for it. And my wife's like, oh boy, she knows what it takes for me to get ready for that too,
Yeah,
and
that's awesome.
But I want to do that because they're getting that age where they're going to have forever memories.
Mm-hmm.
My grandson definitely is at the age where the things that are happening now in his life, when he's 30, when he's 40, he'll remember those.
Yeah.
If they're not just stories or pictures of things. And so I would like to, and maybe this is my own selfish thing of wanting this, but I want my grandkids to have the memories of the cool things that Papa did.
Yeah.
Just the stories.
I don't think it's selfish ever to have your legacy live on, especially if it's something so positive like what you're building. I just hope a couple things. When you do that 5K, I hope that at 2.5K, you stop and you hand your grandson a fun size $100,000.
Yeah.
You two get that, you fuel up and you finish strong.
Finish that out. Yeah.
And then, obviously, I believe just, when I walked into the lobby to come grab you, I was like, I wasn't sure it was you because I was like, he looks younger than I would have expected. Like you're holding yourself very well. I mean, you're still young, but I'm thinking in 10 years when your grandson's 15, he's going to be at an age where he can run. And I see you being right there.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that for you. I think you're doing it all right. You've got your priorities in check. You have just an incredible list of accomplishments here. I think that you're also a great resource if anyone was trying to figure out if Ultramans, if triathlons, marathons, any of the stuff was for them. Nobody really knows better than you on how you go about starting something like that, or whether I guess you wouldn't say you're incapable. It's just, are you ready yet type of a thing.
Yeah, that's something I've had fun these last several years with again with a lot of patients that encourage them to try find new limits, and then help them find the right way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there was one patient who he was struggling to finish an Ironman, and I was told him, you're just running too much. I told him, just get super strong on that bike. make sure, if anything, you know you can swim, but put your time in the bike. So that at least if you get off the bike, you can look at your watch, you know, hey, I got 8 hours to finish. You can walk a marathon in less than 8 hours. What you don't want to do is get off the bike and go, oh, you're chasing the clock.
Yeah, and now you're sprinting.
Exactly. And same kind of thing when he was trying to qualify for Boston. He was always trying to put time in the bank, you know, and so that, you know, he'd have a little extra time for the second half. Told him, no, your fastest marathon ever will be a negative split. And if you didn't run a negative split, if the second half wasn't faster than your first half, you could have ran faster. And he tried 3-4 times. Finally, he took my advice and stuck to the timing plan that I had laid out for him, and he qualified for Boston that year.
That's awesome.
So that's kind of my most fun thing now, is helping people accomplish those kind of goals. You know, either qualify for Boston or just do something new that they haven't done before. And then I've found it'd be fun to, with patients. I've had one that ran Eugene one year. I said, well, I'll go run it with you. And I was just her Sherpa, you know, and I just ran side by side with her the whole way.
That's so cool.
And again, even now when she comes in, we always talk about that time down in Eugene. So we've got this shared memory now that was, you know, her Boston qualifier. And I told her, you just stick with me. I will get you across that finish line in time. You just don't worry about anything. Just stay right beside me, and we'll make it there. And so that to me now is the most fun part of everything.
That is awesome. And I would love to be able to sit here and pick your brain about this stuff forever, because it really is. It's kind of what I've always been trying to do, is to, you know, chop the wood and haul the water, and just do it over and over and over. And you know, you are a product of what you continuously do. And so even somebody who's not in the best shape of their life, or somebody who hasn't run a marathon yet, if you just kind of start and you go, you'll become that instead of what you were before. And you inspire me. You really do. And I want to stay in contact. I want to know about your next big race. And I'll be a big cheerleader for you. All right. All right. Drake Tollenaar in the studio. So great to see you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Drew.